This is Anthony with True Diamond Heart, continuing our video series on Through the Darkness. Today we're going to look into one of the tools that we can use both to bring us into the necessary darkness with light and to bring us through that darkness into greater light. One of the big mistakes that we make on the spiritual path, and that's preyed upon by people who are trying to get followers and money and sex and things like that, is a superficiality that says we just think positive and we live positively and life will all work out and God will get with us and give us money and give us mates and give us stuff and everything will be beautiful. It's got a truth to it, but the deeper truth is that the spiritual path involves a tremendous amount of, first of all, letting go of layers, and in the letting go of those layers is revealed tremendous internal darkness. And that internal darkness is painful. It's not easy. As my friend said when I first became very serious about this whole thing, some years ago, probably about 10, 12 years ago, when I just started to get really serious. She said, because I was with impatience, I was like, I'm doing my meditation, I'm eating proper, I'm living clean, blah, blah, blah. And she said, you're trying to spiritually leapfrog. You can't go over. She didn't say it this way, but what she meant was you can't go over, under, around. You can only go through the darkness. One of the tools, so in our journey, in our trip towards and into light, we will go through darkness. It's like weather. So one of the tools that we use to both invite the necessary darkness. Now, we're not inviting darkness per se, but what we're doing is we're moving into light, and because we're doing that, we're going through the darkness that is between us. Actually, it's inwards, not outwards. Between us and our inner perfection, our light, our undivided, indivisible, eternal light. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of watching our thoughts and feelings. It's especially watching the internal condition. We watch the external condition, we become much more effective in the external world as well. But the primary focus is the internal world. We watch our thoughts and feelings. We develop an impersonality about our own lives. Now, I know this is counter to all of our training and all of our seeming intuition, that what we do is we develop a watching eye that watches us ourselves impersonally. In other words, it doesn't watch ourselves trying to understand. It doesn't watch ourselves by fighting. It doesn't argue with ourselves or with things external that seem to be outside of ourselves. Of course, when I'm fighting with my mate or with my family member or my coworker, in my head I'm saying, you should have done it. What I'm really doing is I'm fighting with myself, obviously, right? Because the person's not here. So what we do is we cultivate that observing eye that watches without fighting with what's being watched, with the thoughts and feelings, without arguing with them, without pushing them down and pretending they're not there. That's a big one. We push them there and we pretend we're not there and we think positive and we travel along dippity-doo-dah, and then somehow or other we find ourselves depressed or in conflict, an internal conflict. We find ourselves sad, depressed, tired. We find ourselves just not where we want to be. And we say, oh, I must not be trying hard enough. You're trying too hard. You're trying too hard. Cultivate this distance from yourself, because the self that we're distancing from is a falsely constructed identity that we spoke about 2 or 3 videos again. If you need to refresh or you're not quite sure what I'm talking about because you haven't seen the past videos, I'm not sure. I think it's the 3rd video in this series. If it's not the 3rd, it's the 4th. So the personality that we're trying to persona is a mask. Persona means mask. It's the play acting we do first for ourselves and then for others. Now, when people say, don't take anything personally, they always mean outside things. And that's wonderful advice. Much deeper. Don't take yourself personally. Watch yourself, again, without arguing with what you see or what you feel, without pushing it down, sublimating it, without struggling with it, without pretending it's not there, without any secondary reaction of judgment, anger, frustration. Any of those things feed the thing it is that we're telling ourselves we don't want, but we do want it to the extent that we are feeding it. If we really don't want it, then we put the mindfulness, the impartial, impersonal observer, and from that vantage point, the distance naturally grows between our actual light and that false persona who we've identified with all of our lives through our training, our programming, and our conditioning. Again, the 4th or 5th video is on responsibility. And as adults, we take responsibility, no matter the cause, for the darkness that we carry. And as we go through, we cultivate mindfulness. And we just watch. And we just watch. And we just watch. Like a vaguely interested, not too interested, not obsessively. Not like we look at ourselves in the mirror. Not like that. We watch with enough interest to maintain that watchfulness, but without too much interest so that we're obsessed with that false personality, that false self. We simply watch the thoughts and feelings, and over time they lose power and they automatically appear, they automatically disappear. The falseness appears and their power disappears. It's a magnificent thing. And in the darkness, when we're in the darkness, to be with that mindfulness, that impartial, impersonal observation of our own pain, our own fear, our own chaos, our own panic, to be with that is amazingly powerful, much more difficult than in everyday life. And yet, the greater the challenge, the greater the darkness, the greater the opportunity. Mindfulness, cultivate, practice, and work with mindfulness. There's a million videos and books on mindfulness. Millions, literally. A lot of good stuff out there. Practice mindfulness. It will help you move into and through the necessary darkness, and it will bring the light in the darkness, and it will bring you through the darkness into a greater platform, a greater glory, a greater expression and manifestation, a higher level. And that's what we're here on Planet School to learn to be. Light. Through the darkness. Light. We'll see you soon for more on Through the Darkness.